Close. Okay, we're gonna start the planning board meeting right now. We have, on the agenda, we have two public hearings, one for, the Baltic, the one for the, Baltic Motel subdivision, and the lot line adjustment in Griffin's Ridge. This is like, I'm not sure, Tom, but reasons, think what they're seeking for, what the public hearing is about. Yes. And if there is scope for what? Okay. What is it saying? Yeah, Brandon had the, you have the in Griffin's Ridge, we're doing a lot line adjustment, between two lots, it's just, it ends up being equal amount of, square footage, it's just giving some in the front to one property and taking from the rear of that property, so it's just a, reversal. The planning board reviewed this and had no issues with it at all. The county planning board. Yeah, the county planning board reviewed that. So we want to know if anybody has any objections to. If you do, the hearing starts now, and think about it. And then the other, we're looking at the Baltic Motel, which was a subdivision of land from 13.85 acres. We're subdividing a piece of 39,000, almost 40,000 square foot piece of it to build a house on. Again, this one we had to go through a change the zoning of the property. That was done, and now we're looking to subdivide the property. This is the address is on Route 9. 2131 Route 9. So if anybody has any questions on that. Oh, we need to do one hearing at a time. Okay. Yeah. Does anyone need to take a look at the map for the lot line adjustment in Griffin's Ridge? Would you open the public hearing? I did. Okay.
I make the motion that with no objection from the audience that we accept the lot line adjustment that's proposed.
Can you hold that until the hearing's closed?
And then I need to close the hearing. Excuse me.
Okay. Do we need a motion to close the hearing? Or we just, I just declare it closed. Should I declare the meeting, the hearing closed?
Okay. Or should we wait till the other hearing is closed before it's time?
No, I second your motion. Abstain. Oh, you can abstain. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Thank you.
Go now.
I like these very effective meetings. You could stay if you wanted.
The next is the Baltic Motel. Again, it's a 13.85 acre plot that's being subdivided, and we're taking a small piece of it, about 40,000 square feet, and enough to build a home right on Route 9. The county planning board has approved both the zoning change and the subdivision. So if anybody has anything to say about this one, please. I want to clarify
We don't have a response yet on the zoning change. They, they're meeting on the 20th. But we received from them no suggested changes on this subdivision.
And that is the county planning board.
That's the count, yes, right.
I think one of the issues we had earlier with this one is the water supply issue. And my understanding is that may have been corrected at this point.
From what I know, the well is okay on this property, so it's not really a water supply issue.
We're not aware of any issues with the existing well and not anticipating any issues with the new well.
If in fact, if the plan developed for the municipal water out available out in front of it, would the owner consider connecting that as opposed to an individual well?
Absolutely, we've already had conversations, but of course, that's dependent on money. On another project.
Okay.
Well, it would be, because the other project is specifying that that water line be owned by the village, and it will be the village that would give permission to connect rather than the owner of the mill.
Right.
Is this property being put up for sale? Following an approval, or is there a plan to build under the current ownership?
There's no plans. I mean, we're just going through this process and obviously the other part of it is that depending on what happens with the mill, that will affect the water and analysis and time frames. There's no rush. There's nobody sitting at the door that want to buy this and it hasn't been a decision made. By the property owner or a relative.
Now, you've got a fairly large piece of property there. I don't know under the current village law, but subdividing off one parcel today and then applying to subdivide another parcel tomorrow meaning sometime in the future.
Right.
Is that likely to happen?
No, because what has happened is that the analysis that we did, we actually went from multiple lot, 2 lots to be creating a total of 3 lots. And then looked at this and quite honestly, the environmental issues, beavers and beavers still with that stuff. So it's highly unlikely, I think, that would happen unless somewhere in the future somebody has some sort of another idea. It's really doubt that it's going to be the front property when it comes back to this board.
Do you know the elevation of this, the average elevation of this particular plot?
No, but there was an analysis that the flood, the wetlands of flood zone. So this lot, this clean wall, that's why we could say we're not involved with DEC. We looked at other, I think the wetlands applied. So that's been looked at, and that's why the proceeding with the request a long time because it keeps us totally away from the.
Spend a lot of time with picture books.
Now, somewhere along the line, because this was a PDD, there was some sort of gift to the village, access to some land under the water or something.
Well, there was a discussion about that. There's currently an easement to, I think the village may own 2 plots that are currently underwater. I think they're actually depicted on that plan. That easement, I guess the village, part of the property, the PDD process had requested access. That request is not come to us, but we've been indicated to do it. I think I don't think anybody ever from discussing it, realized that the land that's there right now is sort of. Right.
Maybe to be a visitor.
But that's land, is land that's probably, if the village wanted to be tied up with a particular strip of land, I don't. From our perspective, it's not going to affect anything anyway, so.
I'm a little confused.
And there was an access easement to the village's parcel, denoted on the map.
Okay.
I'm a little confused. Is this? Is this a zoning reclassification or is it the PDD that enables that?
Well, what's happened is that there's two different processes. The zoning process has been taken, has gone through the village. We're now in front of you for the subdivision itself.
It's,
What is the PDD?
it started with the proposal to the village board for a PDD. In order to do this, because it's land conservation.
But it's it's a three-leg stool. One of the legs doesn't work. So we were successful with the village board in obtaining PDD. So far, if the county planning board has an issue, well, then we're not going to be, we'll have to deal with that issue. But we don't get anywhere unless we get a subdivision approval. And in reverse, as I said, if we're successful with the subdivision approval, we may end up going backwards if the county has an issue with the zoning. So everything revolves around the other side.
So the zoning revision is actually done not by the appeal or variance, it's done by PDD.
Correct.
Yeah.
So enacted subject to subdivision approval being granted.
So do you feel it's appropriate for us to condition the approval without the response from the county planning board?
The response from the county planning board is again focused on the zoning, so I think if they came back with a negative response, it would not come back to here, it would actually go back to the village board anyway. And I await commentary from the village council. So if it wasn't, I don't think we necessarily would need to come back here, or if it's recommended to make one of depending on the other, because we could revolve the board. If there's a problem with the county planning board on the zoning, it's the village board to work that through. How you structure it, obviously you would prefer to have a clean, if the board is amenable, we would have a clean approval, at least here. And then we'll see how we end up with the village board.
So to guarantee a clean approval, would you prefer to have a response from the county planning board before meeting at the approval here at the planning board?
I'm pretty confident they're not gonna have, they didn't have a subdivision, because the zoning, again, the zoning, you know, is, it's a wave of one or a piece of land, you can't do anything. The subdivision really is the impact of the property, as you know, obviously, because you're on the board. So the subdivision would have a concrete impact, even when we do the secret analysis, you know, one is just a rulemaking change, you really don't impact on anything. It's the potential when you come in for something, well, here we are in front of you requesting that subdivision. This is the impact that would occur, and I think this is the part that the planning board would have the hardest part with. You know, okay, it's nice that you have new zoning, but you want to build a 15-story building on a plot of land, you're not going to allow you to do it. Here, they found that it was okay from the subdivision perspective, so I think that's okay with the construction, so. You know, potential construction was single family home.
The rezoning, the result of the PDD was granted and enacted by the village board, and it was filed with the Secretary of State's office, subject to subdivision. The county planning board has been doing this, or not, regarding the subdivision with tonight's public period, they have not provided us with any responses I'm aware of. So I'm comfortable with this board, if it feels so inclined, to move forward on subdivision approval or disapproval.
Conditioned on proper response from the planning board.
we've given the time, we haven't responded
but it's still going to respond.
on this.
You mean there's a clock that they have not responded within and therefore it's both
Yes.
formally approved?
Yes.
Tom, if, the devil's advocate is, if the county planning board voices objection to whether it's either the PDD or our site, our subdivision approval, does that negate the whole thing, or does it just come back to us to rework it?
Well, if someone were inspired to take that to court, I suppose so, but our local law has already been filed.
Okay, our local authority of the file. And that would hold up.
I believe it would.
Motion to approve this, there's no question in the house.
Need to close the hearing?
Yeah, okay, if there's no other questions, we'll close the hearing.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the subdivision for what's the Baltic Motel, Baltic Shores, nobody yet? Motel. Consistent with, we go with the PDH legislation.
I'll second that.
Tim? Yeah,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
okay, we're done.
Thank you.
We're looking for a plot of land.
If he gets a beaver though, maybe.
You were the late.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We're ready. We're ready to go for us. Yeah. I thought before we get started, I did let at this late today get comments from the village engineer. I get through all his comments. And I spoke to Blue, and Blue is gonna let Lamont handle the stormwater, if we get to understand stormwater issues.
Good evening. Joe Danville with Environmental Design here on behalf of the applicant Wayne Beal. In their application to do some site plan modifications, additions, expansion of the mill reservoir. Also,
Good question. Is it County Lake Properties, that is the applicant, not Mr. Beal?
is that correct? County,
That's my corporation name and owns the property, so I think technically something as well.
Okay, so that may be a tweak to the secret documents.
okay,
Sorry.
not a problem. Also here tonight with Ed Anchor of Finney Design Group, who is the project architect. We have been in front of this board multiple times on a previous application. There was some time lapses associated with that application as we were trying to work out some details on the site. We have resubmitted all of the pertinent project information to date. We're here tonight in the hopes that the planning board will deem the application complete and that we can start the seeker review process. This is an unlisted action. As such, the coordinated review is optional. We, the town village at the last time was going to opt in to do a coordinated review. So we'd like to initiate the board to petition to be lead agency, start that coordinated review process, commence with the referral 39A. I think it is referral to the county, and also continue to commence with the engineering review. We did have some correspondence with the engineer today about some of the offsite water. If there's an additional letter available, certainly I'd like to get a copy of that. So we can
I
see.
think I forwarded it to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the project itself, we're looking to enclose the pavilion at the rear of the site to make it a indoor banking facility, add a restaurant, add a secondary kitchen and executive area above that kitchen area for executive dining and smaller events. We are, at the last time we were here, there was a lot of concern about parking on the site. We did walk the site with the chairman. We found additional area out back where we can expand the parking, not including the off-site parking that we have access to. We are now below, I'd say, depending how you want to look at it. We look at a requirement, I think about 1.25 to, or sorry, 1 space for every 2.5 or 1 space for every 3 seats. What's the target range we're in? We are in that range with the current parking. That does not include the off-site parking in the town of Clifton Park. So with that parking, we're well above the requirement. That was one of the major changes that we've been working out over the past several months. Another change that we've been working out was the water, whether or not we we're going to go to a well and have an on-site holding tank for fire suppression. We have made the decision that we are going to extend water from the village around Lake. About 1,600 feet north on the lake side of Route 9 east side, sending that water main to the site. We got to look at the sizing. There's a 6-inch main. We'd like to extend an 8, but we got to go through the matrix and the flow data to make sure the appropriate line main size main is extended to the property. We provided a complete comprehensive set of plans. We are now in receipt of an engineering review letter, which we will take a look at, provide a full written response, amend the plans accordingly, and resubmit those plans. With what we have here tonight, I'd like to go back to what we first said. We'd like to, hopefully the board can see that this, or deem this application complete, commence with the necessary coordinated reviews, the referrals, why those are going on, continue to work with the amended plans and the town engineers to ultimately get a final sign off from that engineer. Come back here in probably 60 days by the time we get through all the time clocks associated with the referrals and move the project forward with seeker and approval. You know, we have some agency coordination we'll have to go be involved with, such as Department of Health for the extension of lines, Saratoga County Sewer District for the additional flow. So there's quite a bit of work left to do on this, but we think we've taken quite a substantial upgrade to the plan and addressed all the previous comments that we were aware of by the town.
Well, I'm very happy with the parking situation. It looks like that's gonna work out. I guess my concern was, and I'm still not sure, there's two things. Is this are you leaving part of the building currently there up, or you're ripping everything down? Okay, so it's an addition.
Yeah, the plan is to, the existing pavilion in front of this along the southern part of the round lake and Clifton Park. That portion of the building stays intact. We're going to be renovating that, but we're doing a small addition on the end of the pavilion, but it makes the same structure, and then an additional kitchen space on the other end. Yep.
And another thing on the plan, on the it talked about a second permit for the water. A second. If I look at the drawing, I guess drawing 5, is it?
6.
Six.
There's a note on that, in the upper right hand corner. About.
Yeah, making it a different project.
I thought we considered a second project.
I think we'd probably like to consider this all as one project.
We wanted to do that as we continue to evolve, and figured it all had to go to one secret application. There was some timing issues. Once we do that, all savings are subject to DOH and DEC reviews, which take quite a while sometimes. But we didn't want to have to wait several months on the construction, so we're trying to expedite it, but we understand that the secret stamp doesn't.
Okay, another concern I have is, I'm not sure this is what this building is. It's a banquet hall. Is it a banquet hall? Is it also gonna be used, you know, when there's not a banquet, on Thursday, Friday night or Saturday night? Is it gonna be now part of a restaurant or
The second restaurant,
a second restaurant?
yeah, well, considering it's already there.
I mean, currently in its form, as I highlighted here, you negate this portion exists as an outdoor dining area that is currently used on an everyday or
Okay.
basis on busier days. That is to remain. The addition is to service that building. Is it going to operate independently? I would ask the applicant and architect to identify.
I think in the summertime. I mean, on the board stay like the way we had a lot of people there as we get ready to get our patio equipment and painting and things like that done. I would envision that on a Thursday night or Friday night, if we don't have some kind of event in this new Bolton building, then probably would open that up for people to be able to sit there and enjoy themselves.
Okay, then that, I didn't print everything that was sent to us. I did print a little spreadsheet on the water requirement. And so it says an ordinary restaurant is gallons per day is 35 per seat. And you have currently a ordinary restaurant. Right? Okay. And that has how many seats?
I'm not sure of this.
That's pretty much. Yeah, it's a current state.
In its current state,
We have 124 seats plus 90 plus 100. So there are 200. 300.
well, be careful. That's not really the question I asked. I said, your current restaurant has how many seats?
120.
124. Okay, ordinary restaurant. And so at the whatever Department of Health, I don't know who supplies the number, 35 gallons per day for each of those 124 seats. Okay. Now you've got listed here a lounge bar, the far end of the current facility. And so the gallons per day goes down for that, down to 20 gallons per day per seat. And then you've got it listed in the quote existing conditions, a 90-seat banquet hall. Now, is that the second floor of the current building?
No,
Then what is it?
I think it's on the drawings and not go as same with it.
I think the 90 seats is the existing indoor pavilion right now.
Yeah, labeled as a banquet hall. On your information.
In the report that was provided.
The last page. Labeled 10/27/2022. You're talking about water consumption. You talked about that. On. Page. Under hydraulic landing. Hydraulic landing. You're talking about the number of seats, the average daily flow, and the peak hourly flow rate.
Yep, so it's identified in the notes on the left-hand side of the chart. The 90 is pavilion / banquet seats. And that's what's identified as the banquet hall. So the existing pavilion, we're counting for 90 seats within the existing pavilion banquet facility, because that does service as events at this time.
Okay, so the existing condition, you're claiming 90 seats as full banquet hall. Right?
Correct.
Okay. Same category, banquet hall. New building, how many seats?
Total of 175.
Total of 175. But that's on the floor of the new building. So those 90 that you're claiming in the existing conditions disappears.
Correct.
Oh, the 90 is supplanted with the additional, the 85 seats, so the total calculation at the end of the day, when the building was built out, was 175 maximum seats in the new renovated banquets.
Okay, but when it's a banquet hall, it's a banquet hall. Somebody comes in for a wedding, somebody comes in for a big birthday party, whatever, it's a banquet hall. But you just said a few minutes ago that when it's not a banquet hall, when it hasn't been rented, you may open it as a restaurant. So therefore, it's opened as a restaurant, the condition goes up, it's an ordinary restaurant, and the water consumption goes up. So you haven't balanced that in any of this information.
What our information does is it identifies the max daily flow if every seat in the restaurant and banquet hall are occupied.
But it doesn't, because you just admitted that sometime chairs inside the renovated building will be operated as an ordinary restaurant and not as a banquet hall.
Yeah, I'm more than comfortable working with the town's engineer to make sure our flows. And this information can certainly be provided to them, and we can make sure that our flows meet the DEC standard or the actual flow basis that we can also provide for various restaurants.
Okay, in your chart, it says the peak hourly flow rate is 22 gallons per minute. Not as based upon your numbers, and first of all, I'm wondering the accuracy of those numbers. But 22 gallons per minute. But that's taking over 8,000 gallons and divided by 24 hours and 60 minutes. Is this restaurant open 24 hours a day?
It is not. Again, I think these are generally accepted engineering numbers and computations, the manner in which we are providing them.
So can you give us the number for the next meeting? Can you give us the number for what the flow rate is going to be if this is used as a restaurant? Not over 24 hours, but over the time that it's going to be used as a restaurant. So yes.
I don't, we can provide that number, but that doesn't calculate to the actual flows and the way the DEC, DOH, and the engineers are going to calculate the flows on this site. The average daily flows are all based on numbers in how they work. And I understand your math, that it makes sense to me. If you take 8,000 divided by the number of hours and the number of minutes, you get your daily flow, and that's different to have your max consumption at any given.
If there's going to be a demand at certain times for that water flow, whenever that I'm asking you for, we need to know whether the diameter of the pipe is sufficient to provide that.
So what you're asking for is the flow as if every seat in this is a restaurant seat at 35 gallons a minute.
Well, you gave us number where you said every seat is counted. You gave it to us.
Correct.
What is the occupancy load of the banquet hall? I thought the banquet hall occupancy load is 122. Then we have the load of the kitchen, then we have the load of the facility upstairs, whatever that is.
175 in the entire.
The
complex.
entire building, okay.
The banquet
But
hall,
the
upstairs.
banquet hall itself, the restaurant, or,
I think we landed on 125 based on the square footage of the
yeah,
floor.
okay, I had 122 on the plans. Okay,
Okay, where at 175 seats come from? That's occupancy.
on the whole building,
Of this entire building.
That's the upstairs and downstairs, I guess.
That includes upstairs, downstairs, and staff. For all occupied spaces in that building.
What's upstairs?
There's another little small banquet room upstairs for about 40 people.
So it's 53 seats upstairs and 122 seats downstairs.
Yes, inclusive of staff as well, so that includes wait staff and kitchen staff in that overall number. We have to account for that for the building code. All the staff in the building, so that's not.
So it's 178.
178.
Okay, and your map that we have up here, the additional parking area, you have that shaded. What's the significance of that shaded?
Just to show that that's the new parking area, the expanded parking that we added after we met on site.
Is that a hillside?
No, you can walk out there today. There's a retaining wall that exists here, and you can easily accessibly walk up to here. There is a berm that we're gonna have to push a little bit over onto the property line.
Okay, so if there's a retaining wall there, a car cannot today drive up it.
Yes, a car can drive up to here today. Right now, I just did it before I came down
Have a Jeep.
here. I could do it with
Yeah, no,
a small vehicle. Peter, you walked.
I was, it's not that bad. The retaining wall doesn't go all the way over. It only goes over maybe, like 2/3 of the distance.
My question is, say affirmatively now that there'll be no disturbing that area or adding new additional parking.
There will be ground disturbance to add additional parking in that area.
When do we go over 1 acre?
When the ground disturbance is over an acre.
Yeah, you're already planning about 7/10 of an acre for the new building. And now you're telling me you're gonna be disturbance for new parking. When do you go over an acre?
The plan as we provided, we're under the acre. We are disturbing some land area here. This is already all disturbed. This is already all disturbed. The only new ground disturbance is actually this area. This area is all gravel. This area is all paved. If we're not going below, we can do some minor grading. If we don't change, get into the gravel or below the gravel, it's not ground disturbance. Gravel surfaces are identified as a stabilized surface.
Fred, what's your opinion on that?
I guess,
What?
I guess that.
I did speak to Blue about this, and his concern was, what are you gonna disturb when you run the water line? And he said, so, right, and so he said, let's wait, it's gonna be difficult to see, let's map it out, the actual, the water line. And we thought, maybe you're being tricky and putting it on the separate application, but that was his concern, he said, let's add it all up and see what the water line goes through.
The water line is gonna be done by directional drilling.
That's what he thought. Like you said,
Right,
right, that's why.
You put the map up that shows the new stormwater small retaining. There, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember counting 3 new pits that you identified as small temporary holding areas. Is that true?
So you must be looking at the erosion.
I thought they were permanent. Essentially like a surface drain pit.
They're
I think so.
it's
Actually, right,
yes.
how deep do those go?
The sump in those will be 1 to 2 feet deep, depending on the water quality that they need to treat.
So if it's only 1 to 2 feet deep completely, and yet you're classifying it as a holding area.
It does provide a certain amount of treatment for the water quality volumes associated with the soil.
About the existing pond that's there. Does that ever go dry?
Never,
Never. Does it ever overflow?
if we have a terrible storm, it overflows a little bit, it's like that, without the answer. Very little though.
There's a culvert that handles high water in the pond, is that correct?
That is correct.
And that runs all the way underneath the current parking, and then it exits through the bank that's on the edge of the wetlands area.
Correct.
And that exiting pipe is 2 feet, 3 feet higher than wetlands. All I've seen is visually, I haven't gone down to measure it, so I'm guessing.
I'm not sure of the height of it. I know that it's the drain on it, because we don't have kind of issues.
Okay. But you are referring to that pond as a stormwater retention pond. Now, if you remember Victorian landings, we had a lot of talk about the purpose of the stormwater retention pond. The idea is that it holds stormwater and it allows the water to leave the area much more well. So that in the rapid runoff, it allows the water to sink into the ground and eventually disappear. But that's not what this pond does. And yet you refer to it as a stormwater pond.
I don't want to get into a discussion about different types of storm ponds. Up there is a very
That's the purpose of my questions, sir. It is a discussion of what a stormwater pond is.
I can say to the stormwater plans, we will provide a plan that's 100% DEC compliant, and we won't move forward on that plan until it's signed off by the town engineer. And if so, who wheels at the county.
But this stormwater pond is not designed to hold water to allow for a slower release of water into the ground.
The function of this pond is a wet pond.
Yeah.
A wet pond will not discharge into the ground. A wet pond will have an overflow at a controlled rate that discharges to a different surface area to take that water away. It provides a settlement water quality feature as opposed for detention, as opposed to an infiltration practice which would bring it into the ground. Two completely different types of pond depending upon the soils, types of the groundwater elevations. I understand the concern is the stormwater management or the lack thereof on the plan. Again, we're working within strict regulations and requirements that we have to follow that are imposed by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. The village of Round Lake is an MS4. We need to obtain sign off from the village MS4. The village MS4 will be utilizing the knowledge of the town's reviewing engineer to make sure we are following those rules, laws, and regulations. If additional treatment is needed as a result of those reviews, we certainly will add it. That's really all I can offer. We're going to follow the laws and rules and regulations and in compliance with all the reviewing agencies that will be looking at the plan.
So recently there was a small need for the fire company to arrive at the mill. It was a motor fire. And you have a pump for the sewage system for the discharge. What happens if that pump fails?
If that pump fails, and I don't know the exact details of that pump, we certainly need to get involved with that as we deal with the district permitting the BBC. A typical grinder pump system is going to have a holding tank associated with it. When that pump gets up to a certain point, an alarm sounds. The alarm is sent to the owner of the facility. The owner then needs to go add a generator to that pump if the electricity is out to that. If there's a faulty pump, the pump needs to be replaced. If it's not working, the business will have to close until that pump is up and running.
So currently, there is a grinding pump and there is a temporary storage tank.
I'm assuming, again, I don't know the pump tank system. I believe it is a duplex pump where it has two pumps that alternate. So if one goes down, there's alarm goes off so that you can replace it and fix that so that it doesn't, so you don't have an issue, but there is within that tank a certain volume of water that can fill up before those pumps get down. Those pumps are not running continuously.
What's the current capacity relative to the storage tank?
I have to look at the reports and
Does anybody know?
I don't know. I would speak.
Will you be increasing that capacity in the project?
we will be increasing flows. If there's a need to increase the storage or the pumping system, that will be part of the project.
Can we get some numbers on that?
Certainly.
Let me speak to the alarm. We've had an alarm system that Joe has spoken about. It's got like a red light that goes off, and it's got a siren, so it's in the parking lot, use this siren go off. I'm gonna say that it's probably, since we hooked up to the county sewer, I think 12 years ago, that alarm has probably gone off one time, maybe twice.
Now, the county owns the pipe that goes underneath English Road, underneath I assume underneath that parking area that we talked about, and then puts into the main line. So the county is responsible for all that piping.
I believe so, yes. And I let Peter know earlier today that we're going to contract. I know Tom had an issue with us leasing that parking lot. We've been negotiating with the owner of the property, Don Nichter, who we've leased it from for the last 10 or 12 years. We're going to contract to purchase that property. We'll probably own that within 45 days.
And you'll continue to use it then.
The only issue with that parking lot, and it's in Clifton Park, any off-site parking in Clifton Park requires a special use permit. So probably when you're gonna have to go down and get a special use permit from, even if you own it from the town of Clifton Park.
Duly noted.
And also half of this shaded area on this map, or more than half of it, is also within the town of Clifton Park.
I haven't heard boo at Clifton Park. I know, I did hear that you said it was 7 drawings. That's a bunch of supplies I got.
I've sent him a set of drawings. I've talked to John multiple times. I know what I can tell you what he's told me. I'd like for you to get it in your own words. If somebody from the village would like to call him, I can facilitate a call with John and someone from the village. I can facilitate emails and letters. The town of Clifton Park has no trouble with the application as proposed and does not feel like it needs to take any effort.
We'd love to have a letter. I mean, I notified the clerk, I notified John. Just, I need a letter, so you guys are okay with it.
I think if I can get you on a call with John and tell him exactly what you need.
Write me a letter,
Yeah.
or email me.
And I think understanding what you want that letter to say is gonna be important to what John can write. So I think just a quick call, that'd be a great way for us to have that appropriate communication.
I have your number, I'll call you to facilitate, help facilitate.
I talk to John almost every day.
Okay.
Peter, John's first and John's last name.
Yeah. He's the director of planning.
Thank you.
On the sewer issue, we do have some numbers in our general narrative. One of the things I want to point out, I did say a duplex pump. It's actually a quadplex pump. Okay, so it has 4 alternating pumps within that system. The E1 quadplex pump is going to have no issue taking the flows from this facility, its expansion, and even more expansion beyond that. We can certainly quantify that. The flows we have average daily flows, max daily flows are gonna be handled in that. Not gonna be.
Does the restaurant have an emergency generator?
No,
Concerns about having 150 people in your building and the power goes out?
I've been there 15 years, we really haven't had an issue with that. I'm guessing when we do this addition, we're probably gonna incorporate some kind of standalone generator that will take care of the property.
Well, I have a generator for 2 people, so.
I do have one of those.
That's here.
Now, another issue, which I don't see on the plans is outdoor lighting. In the parking lots.
You know, he does talk about. The kind of quiet lighting.
But there's other, dark sky lighting on the buildings.
We will look at the lighting, if there needs to be some in the, in that parking lot to light it, and we want to maintain about a half a foot candle, but we also want to be. So,
No, certainly, give the speed then.
Yep.
I make a strong suggestion that you drive both north and south. On Route 9. When your lighting's in place and find out if it bothers the driver, there's a light somewhere, and I don't think it's the mill property, but. There's somewhere that it bothers the hell out of me, because it was right in the driving lane. Path.
The U-Haul self-storage on the north way bothers me when I'm driving. That's pretty bright.
So Joe, we're gonna have, 3 seats in the existing restaurant. 122 in the first floor of the banquet hall, 56 in the second floor of the.
So we are,
I think the 90 seat is gone, right?
yeah, the 90 is 3 million now. That goes away and becomes a total of 175.
What about the
Okay, so
upstairs?
that's the building that's a T on that drawing. It's gonna be eliminated.
No, this building here, that's the pavilion.
That's the building.
That is what's calculated under the existing conditions.
Okay, what's the old building that needs for the people?
So this is currently the restaurant, bar, and outdoor seating.
So what would be,
That will remain unchanged.
so it is serving people, and it will still be there after you
Yes.
put in the banquet hall.
Never change that.
So it's 90 plus 175,
No, 90 plus,
So this building, right, is 124 seats.
okay?
This is the existing ordinary restaurant, 124. That doesn't ever go away.
There is a bar inside,
Right.
which has a certain amount of seats. There's also the outdoor patio area.
Which they
which
labeled
is
banquet.
sort of the hundreds.
What's gonna change with that?
So in this area, the 100 and the 124, no change. 124 and 100. 224 seats here will not, depending upon restaurant.
And then we are
levels.
adding to that 175 in the building.
Correct.
Okay, so we're having a 400 customer capacity.
Correct. So we've got 399.
Now, in the existing building, there's an upstairs room. Which probably holds 30 to 40 people. Is that going to be continued use of?
Yes,
That's including the capacity of the 124.
So the 124 includes that.
That's the second floor dining, continues.
Okay. One quick question. The water line comes in. Your narrative says it'll be terminated. Close to the property line. and then you'll continue on to service the buildings. Is there, plans for at least one fire hydrant in that area, in that water line comes down?
There will be a fire hydrant at this location at the end of the town's municipal line.
And that'll be a Round Lake fire hydrant, correct, not yours.
We have no desire to.
Looking at the plans, I thought, I'll go to before that you put together on it. The question that I did have a little curiosity about it, I didn't understand it, how it really fit together, so somebody mentioned about this is the sewer force main. That, on your existing property, the force main is, as I would expect, owned by the property owner. But as soon as it crosses the road and then goes through additional private property, it becomes county property to maintain.
I don't know the exact details on the ownership, but I would assume that from the pump, there is a pressure force main somewhere along that line. There must be a curb stopping valve box that can be turned on and off. One side of that is owned by the applicant, the other side is owned by Saratoga County Sewer District. Where exactly that occurs, I'm not 100% sure. I can certainly go and review it and try and provide more detail on that.
It just, kind of following to Lance's concern about the maintenance of that sewer system. Just if something happens to that line, it becomes plugged for some reason. Just finding out whose that is and who's going to maintain that. That kind of needs to be known probably fairly quickly if you want to keep in business.
Yeah, I'm certain, knowing Saratoga County Sewer District and the fact that this is the only flex pump, it's about the best pump that there is out there. That there is clear ownership of who maintains a portion of the line. And I'm sure if the line's clogged, Wayne's gonna go out there and fix it until he gets to a point where he realizes he's in the county. Because he's gonna get it done a lot faster.
No,
Yes,
so we have 224 patrons in the P building. We have 175 in the banquet. That's 409. And at 2.5 persons per car / parking space. We need 164 parking spaces. There's 25 spaces shy of that, I believe. Where's my map?
I have 200, 124, 100, and 175. Those are the seats.
The 224 was 175 is 399.
Yeah, 4. These have, it's 124, 100, 170. I think it's 399. That's 395. That's still trying to get through that. Yes.
So the space is 399.
399 seats. If we did a parking ratio of
What's 399 divided by 2.5?
159.
59.
But the most basic regulation is top of the park at 3 to 1, I believe. Right? Versus what the town requires.
I think, you can throw the town what we require out the window. I mean, we've experienced that, that doesn't work, that, the town 5 or it's caused major problems in the town. It doesn't work. So we're looking at going to, and this is a banquet hall. We don't list what the parking should be for a banquet hall. So we're saying, 2.5. We're looking at Malta at 2 and Clifton Park at a high. So you said 2.5 is a good number.
we are closer to 2.9.
Yeah,
We're under the impression you want 2.5 to 3 was the range you were looking for.
We're at 2.85, right?
2.85.
that's always been my concern too, is parking. My concern was always parking, people on Route 9, cars parking on Route 9. And when we had Wayne, I was very impressed when you did the ice bar. You had people out there, you kept people off of Route 9. And I think, I want to have feel that confidence that you'll do that if it gets overcrowded, and you'll make sure that nobody's parked out there on Route 9.
You know that, we take that very seriously.
Yeah.
And I will get something from the town of Clifton Park to take care of that auxiliary parking.
Yeah, because I feel that with the auxiliary parking, you should be okay, but. You know, even like a night tonight, you're packed, you know, it's like your lots are full, it's like, you know, it's easy to get 450 people there, if you know. So I just want to make sure nobody's on Route 9.
Okay, on your drawing, I see one space for 3 seats. I thought we were dealing with one space for 2.5.
Right.
2.5.
Yeah, but right now, we have nothing to put on our plans other than the known regulations of
Right.
Round Lake and the town. Those are the known regulations as they exist. I know we're working on developing a new standard for Round Lake. I don't believe one exists in the code yet. When we were walking the site with Peter, he kept mentioning we're looking for somewhere between 1 per 2.5 and 1 per 3. We're at 1.285. With the number of parking spaces we have, so we thought we were doing what was asked of us to get to that number.
I feel uncomfortable with that number, personally, you know, 1.8, whatever, with the additional parking, overflow parking.
The 139 spaces for 399 seats.
Correct. That's one space for every 2.85 seats. 8.7.
So if they have an additional 40 parking spots, if necessary. I know it's not on the same lot, but.
It's not a newly purchased
Really,
property.
it's probably what
That
next
we
door.
can count that, right?
Well, the property just purchased next door, is that a common lake purchase or a
It's,
deal purchase?
it's a different entity than the owner of the mill property.
We're talking about Pete Johnson's property, huh?
No. We're talking about the corner, the parking lot.
Okay. Yeah, we leased that for 10 years from a realtor down after in Scotia.
Now, my question is directed at the lot that you bought just north of this lot. You just acquired a lot. Was that in the name of Connie Lake or was that in the name of you?
That's in the name of one, it doesn't have nothing to do with content.
Okay.
So I'm told it doesn't affect the secret, right?
But we're also looking at the lot in the south side of the property that we just purchased by Connie Lake or by Wayne. Which has about.
He hasn't bought it yet, but it's close.
Right. It was currently used as parking and will continue to be used as parking.
But we also use that for people, especially in the summertime, that want to use their bikes, they'll park in there, take their bikes off the back, and they'll go up and ride there.
I personally feel comfortable with the amount of parking. My only concern is with 400 people is those nights or those times when you end up being more than 400 people. All of a sudden there's 200 cars. And as long as that's controlled somehow, people send people away.
Peter, I think your point is well taken. We went to great lengths with the ice bar this year to make sure that we took care of that.
You did a great job.
I appreciate you noticing that.
The agencies that are interested or involved, we have DOT, EDC, Saratoga County Sewer District, Clifton Park, and the Saratoga County Planning. Anybody else we should include?
Stay away from the water line.
Department of Health.
Department of Health with the water line. So for this.
Yeah, and I can verify those, and I know On the previous version of this application, I did submit a letter with all the appropriate contact information for
I
the
do recall that.
notifications.
Yeah.
And we have a letter from the Parks Department.
I'll tell you where I'm at with this. I don't know how this feel. I didn't get to talk to the village engineer until yesterday, and he started to review it yesterday. He sent me some comments today. I didn't talk to Blue until today, and we didn't get the plans, and we don't work on Friday here, so I didn't see the plans till Monday. I'm not ready to make a decision on this tonight personally, on whether it's complete or not.
Well, I was just gonna ask for a review, all right? Last month, we said that the plan can come back to us without prejudice and restart the clock.
Correct.
And so I assume that tonight's meeting restarts
No,
no?
no, the clock starts when the application is deemed complete by the.
Okay. So let's review tonight then. I think we were promised some new data. And related to a few questions.
I think one issue, I don't know, I may have missed this, but the plans indicate that the village pipe, at which you're gonna begin run your pipe up, down to the north, is an 8-inch pipe. And our information is that it may be a 6-inch pipe, so I think we need to establish or do a flow test there, just to make sure that we have 399 people there and they're all, your full tilt business, that there's enough water.
So you're requiring a flow test before we deem the application complete and start a
Well,
coordinated review.
if you putting in an 8-inch pipe there isn't going to be sufficient for your project. Yes,
So the pipe that comes under Route 9, 1,600 feet north of the mill. Is a round lake pipe, and you believe that's a 6-inch pipe?
I have no belief.
You have no belief.
I know.
I thought that Johnny thought that it was a 6-inch pipe, but I mean, that's easily resolved.
Right, well, we need to verify this, which you're basically saying.
Right, I think Johnny told me too, it's a thin pipe that goes into an 8-inch pipe, and it goes under.
And is that the same 6-inch pipe that, or an extension of the pipe that feeds, the development?
I think it could be, yes. I think it comes right down Cleveland Avenue. And this,
I think that's the map. Well, comes down the pipe going to the Griffith Bridge.
right, and the pipe that's feeding that,
Goes down to the down High Street and down in.
that's what I think.
Here, can we get a map of that
Yes.
piping system?
Yeah.
And the size of the pipes? And obviously get that information to.
Yeah.
The applicant.
John has those maps.
Now,
Actually, I have one in the office.
from somebody who knows nothing about this stuff, it seems to me that just like a chain is as strong as a tweak is length, that if you have a series of pipes. And there's some 6-inch and there's some 8-inch, it doesn't matter what you're hooking onto, there's 6 inches somewhere in the line. That it is functionally a 6-inch line, is that accurate?
Not exactly, it does have an impact on total flow. Really what it depends on is the pressure tested at the end of that 6-inch line. We could put it in a 12-inch line down there, and then we would calculate static or head loss pressure as it extends down that line.
Okay,
The thought, I mean, any new municipal line would be insane to install it at less than 8-inch. Thought is maybe someday in the future, these lines could get upgraded if need be, but they were probably put back in the 70s.
Actually, I think DOH is gonna require, that's gonna be a dead end line, permanent dead end line. And I think they require the minimum to be 8-inch. I think that's, you're stuck with that.
Yeah, so we would have to calculate static loss based on that. I don't think we're gonna have any head loss because it's pretty flat down there.
Yeah, you're not pushing anything uphill, then.
I guess the question is, what else do we need from this applicant for the next meeting?
A good detail on the water system.
I think that, hopefully, you have a copy of our engineer, what he's looking for.
Yeah, we just got that today.
Yeah, I just got it today.
Yeah.
I don't need to throw it at the last minute,
Yeah.
but the whole. See, like, I just got the drawings on Monday.
I guess my question, Peter, is I know we obviously have a lot more review to do with you guys. I guess that fundamentally though, as it stands right now, with the information I've been giving you today, I mean, have we completed the portions of the application that need to be complete? Understanding that it'll complete the review to do with the agencies and also with the town. I guess partly what we wanted to do is start the clock on interagency notification, so to get that, declare the agency for seeker. That's gonna take some time, and we've got other things that we need to be putting into the water line, concurrent with that. Is that?
Trying to back and secret, I forget a lot of the secret stuff, but we have to do is terminal lead agency. We have to do that coordination request when we see it. We'll say we want to do the agency, but can we do that before we have the application?
No.
I mean,
Because what we do is once we deem the application complete. We have the county referral form, we have the secret document, we have the actual application. And we scan all that in, and that's the application, we circulate it to all of the interested involved agencies. Together with a notice of a public hearing, if indeed we schedule a public hearing.
So what I would ask, just because I feel like it's changed a couple times since we started. We had a complete application the last time we submitted with less information than we have today.
Right.
Do we have a list of exactly what is needed for this board in writing to deem this application complete? I think we need to know that to understand what we need to provide the applicant so that we can make sure at the next meeting, the applicant has the town village has everything they need to deem the application complete.
We need to know whether there's a viable plan for the water. Which depends upon whether there's enough water coming through the existing line underneath Route 9. Out to that, I guess, it's fire club.
The town, the village had declared lead agency during the last review that we did, and we started the secret process. I mean, and we're giving you more information now than we had previously. I'm just wondering why we couldn't declare the agency, start the agency notifications, understanding that we have to do that locale.
This is the renewal of the application.
But also, how do you run that pipe down to the south? Well, how much is underground, how much is above ground is going to determine the amount of soil disturbance. Right now, there's a question about whether a SWIP is required or not. So until that water plan, which includes the pipe, if we now know we're gonna run that pipe down the east side of Route 9, north to south. You have to know how much ground is gonna be.
What I'm saying is we didn't know that before, when we declared the agency to move forward with that process.
And I don't think we should have, but we did.
Yeah, it was
We never ran into the 60-day clock while we were fooling around with these other issues. And so we had to make a decision on the application that's done. Hopefully now we're not gonna make that error again.
Well, we notified you that we weren't gonna attend the last planning board meeting because we're still figuring these things out. We never understood that there was gonna have to be a renewal for the application filed in that window. I mean, we would have had to have done that. So if it's through the process, you not be back to square one. If we're asking for the agency, or lead agency, so that we can get the clock moving and not start over from scratch with that.
No, I don't think we accept that.
And so then it just. We're trying to figure out the application. Right now, the only thing that we've been additionally asked to do is provide a viable water source.
By the water, including how that pipe is gonna be laid, so we know whether there needs to be a switch.
So we just need to provide more information on the off-site water. Such as, is the capacity there, is the pressure there, and what disturbance is going to be associated with.
That,
We do that, we have a complete application.
is there anything else?
Well, I'd like to see a special use permit for the parking on English Road from Clifton Park. That would be required, right? It's not a big deal. I mean, I just get a special use permit for that parking.
And I think one is kind of not just that, but also the additional spot up on top of the hill behind the restaurant. You adding some additional parking up on top of the hill.
That's already on the plans.
It's on the plans, but do we need something that, part of that's in the town of Clifton Park. Do we need that permit from them?
So one of the things that could trigger them to have to react to this would be the coordinated review process. They would be issued a letter and say, hey, we are reviewing this. There is improvements within the town of Clifton Park.
I do not believe we need a special permit from Clifton Park in place in order to deem the application complete.
I think we've got some seating number issues. And I think we've got some stormwater runoff issues that need to be addressed.
I think we would need some more definitive information, so we'll know exactly what we need to address. Numbers.
That makes sense. But I don't think we're in a position to give you that tonight. That's,
Yeah, our engineer just.
Yeah, I guess it's our request that in writing within a reasonable amount of time, 2 weeks. The village provide the applicants with a written list of the items needed to deem the application complete.
Well, this board doesn't meet for another month. So the board can't give you that written list without having another meeting. I think what you have now, what's in the minutes, is what you recited back to me, which is the capacity, pressure, et cetera, of the existing fire plug to the north, and how you're going to run that line north to south. But we can determine the split issue, and we can determine whether that is a viable plan for water.
If that is it, then we are good and we can provide that information.
Nancy said there was some stormwater runoff.
As I said, your narrative refers to that pond as a holding pond. And it isn't. And so I'm just wondering, how you, handle the additional runoff that's going to be caused by the new buildings. The new addition to the existing pavilion. I mean, if the purpose of the drains that you've shown in one of these maps is to get the water off more quickly, that defeats the purpose of handling stormwater runoff. I mean, we've got a interstate wetland there that's adjacent to a piece of property that we just authorized the possible building of the residence. And if you're dumping a lot of water there, I don't know what the effect would be.
So do we need a sign off on the stormwater management from the MS4 and the village engineer to move forward?
I mean, he's looking at it now. Yes, the village engineer will do it. Lou said he's gonna let Lamont do the sign off on that.
Okay.
So that's what I'm asking. Do we need to sign off on whether we need a SWIP or not, or the stormwater before we?
You know, I did talk to Blue and he talked about, you know, the way tunneling and stuff. He didn't think it'd be regular, but he doesn't know. We don't really know. But it appears the way that you plan on doing it, there shouldn't be a large disturbance But we don't know yet, yeah. I would feel more comfortable, I mean, I know that you wanna get this project moving and get going with this project. But I just feel like I didn't have enough time to sit down with the village engineer and go over all the issues that we have with this project. And certainly by the next meeting, those all should be resolved. Anything I get from him, I would immediately forward to both of you. So you know exactly what's going on in his head, and then we can meet again in a month and hopefully get final site plan approval.
Yeah, we're happy to work back and forth over the next month with the town engineer. If we want to meet, come to a meeting or whatever the case may be, we're happy to do that.
Okay, that's the way I would like to see it go.
Yeah, Joe, I think this kind of following from Lance's thing too, that I think what we would like is we're not gonna go in and decide that it's 0.937 acres that can be disturbed. We're gonna take an engineering certification for you guys, but we'd like to see that what it will be the disturbance of the total project. And then you'll tell us, are you subject to the SWIP or not? Into that permit. And then we can go from there with that, but that's kind of an up in the air thing right now.
It sounds like we're gonna work with the village engineer on that, not
Correct.
Lubius.
Right,
Okay. Do we have the ability to confer and discuss directly with, I'm assuming it's Jason? The village
yeah,
engineer?
Mike Harrington.
Mike Harrington.
And I think Mike has been emailing you back and forth,
I think Sarah was beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, my.
so, yeah. I don't know if you know Mike, I'm sure you do. So,
Mike and Jason, yeah.
yeah. So I would hope you guys can talk and we can come back again.
Yeah,
in a
we're
month.
okay with us having offline conversations directly with Lamont and working all that out and coming back to you with the resolutions to some of those issues. We're happy to do that.
Okay. I would be happy with that, sir.
And that additional
Otherwise-
information should be, in writing, given to us beforehand.
Sure.
And basically we switch out the pages, if once we determine it complete. And use that to provide all the interested and involved agencies, put them on notice.
Sure. Understood.
I have to be, my two biggest issues with the project look like they're gonna be resolved. For me, it was water and parking, and I think we got there.
DPW superintendent, that's John.
Yeah,
So he would be the person we contact to set up going out to the
yeah.
meter and do some hydrant flow tests.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
See you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have minutes. Minutes. We have minutes to vote on?
Yeah, we do. We're getting the minutes from 3/8.
Yes, fine. Anything else?
Yes.
How much of this is table the application, so it was application table.
Yeah.
It's table for-
Able to connect them.
Okay.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Take care.
Want to do minutes or procedure first?
See, let's do procedure.
Oh. Want to do the procedure first?
We will track them down.
I think I paid everybody.
Oh, on both sides, sorry.
Tom, I'll keep one of these for record. I'll keep this for record.
Yes.
I have a motion to change the wording of step number 2. Want to read step number 2 first? My motion is to change the wording of step number 2 to the following. The code enforcement officer may review for obvious deficiencies and inform the applicant as a courtesy and discuss with the applicant at an informal meeting. Minutes of the meeting shall be taken, including a list of issues discussed. Those minutes will be forwarded to the members of the planning board prior to the next scheduled planning board meeting.
that, which of obligations is that change?
Well, I made it a motion to,
Well, we don't need a motion,
To modify.
it's just a
well, okay, there's some discussion that
proposal could make.
we have the complication currently that the planning board chair and the code enforcement officer are one and the same. And my comment to Tom earlier was, I remember when I was planning board chair, I wouldn't want to have gotten involved in this particular discussion because I would feel unsure of myself about what issues might be involved with the application. So I thought it should be the code enforcement officer.
We do a straw poll on that change?
Okay, I would gladly, step down as planning board chairperson. Oh, I know.
You're on the CEO.
Sometimes we're here.
But I also thought that, you know, when you're talking with somebody, you know, the planning board gets the information from any minutes taken, what has been previously discussed, so we can,
Yeah.
so we can know ahead of time what's happening.
No, I would agree, so I'm looking at, as with this project, I'm saying, well, Mike Harrington will initiate, has started already to initiate a conversation with the architect, he needs to do it with the engineer too.
Right.
And Mike, I was kind of just throwing it at them, you guys worked this all out, between the two of you. Then Mike report back to me and tell me what you think. But I gladly.
Well,
How's the east end of the table feel?
I think that's for a little bit about the duties and responsibilities and the authority of each of those people, each of those titles. Does it cause a potential for conflict of interest? With the code enforcement officer?
I don't believe so. I think if you were talking about the zoning board, then there would be a conflict, but not the planning board.
I'm okay with it. I mean, I would just run it all through Mike Harrington and let Mike then come back to me, and then I would report back to the planning board.
It doesn't work with it. Change.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy with that?
Yep.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions with that too is. One is secret. As I read this, looking at the secret. My recollection of secret, what it was 15 years ago. This is a very simplified approach to secret. For a very simplified project. But don't we need something that's broader that would cover any potential secret application? Some secret. You know, this is essentially what this is do.
To declare ourselves lead agency,
You know, and I guess what I looked at with that is. Are we always in a position to declare ourselves?
well, we did talk about the secret documents. I mean, the board can say you need to do an environmental impact statement, you need to do a long form, you can do a short form. But we need to have the appropriate secret form drafted by the applicant to be, in order to name the application complete. And then as we analyze it, we go through that secret application and decide whether or not we agree with it. And
But that's assuming that we are going to be the lead agency. Are we always going to be the lead agency?
always.
You know,
well, we can declare ourselves, but it could be challenged, right?
It could be challenged. There's that.
I relate back to the firehouse. We did I looked at the secret process for the firehouse compared to this, and it was, you know, many pages of, and I said, why do we, what's the difference here? Why are we gonna accept the short form and that's it? But I also think there are mistakes on this form that we already did.
So the information we got for this applicant, the secret form in there was the short form,
Yeah,
right? So if we think that it ought to be the long form, we ought to notify them yesterday.
yeah,
Right, the lead agency can require the long form that any of it, sorry. If it's a given type of an application, it's a type 1 application, then they have to do it,
Right,
and that's not our choice.
right, but I'm just saying that if they're coming back next month expecting the slate is now clean and,
Right.
and the application is accepted. If we want the long form, we ought to tell them now
Absolutely.
that we want the long form when they return it.
Well, I think that's something, Peter, you're gonna talk with our engineer, correct?
yeah, I will, yeah.
And ask the engineer whether the engineer thinks we need a long form here. I mean, this is a significant project for this little village.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it requires a long form. I think the person with the greatest expertise in this area is Mike Harrington.
Yeah, well, I went to the seeker meeting at the county planning session, one was that 2 months ago. And my recollection is use the long form if you think it's necessary, sort of was always the recommendation. And I don't see any reason in this case not to ask for the long form.
Not to ask for it or to ask for it. What is it the long form will give us
Well,
that the
it is-
short form doesn't do?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, it's easier to give a burden to an applicant, but there ought to be a reason for giving that.
Obviously, there are differences, but I think for the size of this application and the extent that we're spending time on it, we ought to have as much information as possible.
I'll run it by Mike, I kind of look, I thought the same thing usually, that, well, we put the fire department through hell, and that, but we're not gonna do
Yeah,
this.
but that's because we're friends.
And there's good points in that. You might get challenged then.
Yeah.
I mean, this project, it's big for us, the town,
Yeah.
it's big for us, but it's a relatively insignificant project in the overall revenue.
Yeah.
It doesn't meet any of the criteria that, well, would require it all. Unless it's our decision we want. That's true. But like then Tom saying, we really gotta go with justice to do that.
Yeah,
This is pretty broad stuff here, I know, but, to make sure that we toe the line with our statutory obligations, I think that we need this or its equivalent.
So the CBA has
And-
no,
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but what I'm gonna do is to add to 3A, that the board name itself leading agency and determine the environmental assessment appropriate. Yeah, environmental assessment form appropriate.
And to do that, what we probably need to do is determine the part of that, determine the type of an action, is it type 1, type 2, or unlisted? Because if we do determine that it's a type 1, then we got to require one. No, I think the real positive thing for us in keeping this as low key as we can is that we don't really have a lot of big developments that can take place in the village anymore, so somebody can then decides to tear down everything from Curry Road to Lake Avenue or something,
or Goldfoot.
or Colton. You know, there's not enough that would
Your,
trigger.
your concern is that we don't have enough specificity here to say how we made that decision is made? Do I just make an addendum to this policy, and in which you could change the addendum? You see what I'm saying? If you want more specificity for that, rather than putting in another section into this policy, sort it out. Is it better to have it sort of as an addendum or a separate policy? Or procedural as opposed to being a specific policy? To me, this is like how we go through the system.
Well, it's not a policy, it's a procedure.
Right, a procedure. So, but you said you were like a procedure or a policy?
Well, the procedure is what I think we really need, so we do this kind of uniformly each time, so we keep aware of the different things we have to do. But I'm just questioning what the secret part of it. Are we really satisfying what secret requires of us?
Okay, well, I'm moving the secret up that part of deciding whether the application is complete is whether or not the secret documentation that's been provided is essentially adequate to get the ball rolling. It's the appropriate secret documentation. We're not deciding whether or not we're not adopting the secret at that point. But if they give us a short form and we decide there needs to be a long form, the application is not complete till we have the long form.
And I'm not certain how this plays out, but we declare ourselves a lead agency. Require that they do the short format. It's a minor, our estimation, minor operation. But there's a couple other agencies that have a permit jurisdiction. So we send out that notice to them. And all of a sudden they decide it's a major issue. And they then declare that it's not. We decide the application is complete, we declared that. But can they say, no, we need a lot more information?
Oh, they can say we need more information to complete seeker, but we, as a board, can decide that the application is complete. Now, being complete doesn't mean this is all we ever need, it just means there's enough here for us to move forward, sink our teeth into, schedule a public hearing if, once we decide.
You know, the fact that it is wetland, the buffer zone, we have to do, we see, you know, let's see what they have to say.
So I'm gonna rewrite, I'm going to make Lance's changes to 2, I'm gonna rewrite 3. To take into account the good points you brought up about seeker. I'll recirculate it and then we can decide on this at the next meeting.
And the other thing I picked up on here is that it kind of sounds like every application we do has to go to county planning. I thought it was just that there was orders on another municipality or a state highway.
It does, however,
We're so close.
we had one where we didn't realize we had to go to county planning and then we had to turn around and schedule a new public hearing and so forth. So what I said to Jeff at county planning, the county planning board was, when we have these things, we're gonna send them to you.
Yeah.
If you don't have any interest, you don't have any interest, but this way, I mean, all we're doing is hitting a send button. You know, we get an application, we decide it's complete, we scan it all in, and we send it to the county planning board, just in case they have an interest in it.
And they have an upset date
So
in
we're
that.
overdoing it, he said, we're fine with that.
And there's an upset date in that if they don't respond within X days,
Yes,
that's considered their approval.
any other changes to this before I do the next draft? Okay, so I'll ask Peter and he and I will sit down, just like we put this together, and we'll do the figures. So.
All right, so can I ask about our next meeting? Will Peter be sending to these guys soon a request that they do the long form procedure? Start with that question.
If the engineer requested, or?
Well, you're gonna ask our engineer.
Right,
if
oh,
he
that's
thinks
Mike, Mike said, yes, we should do it.
that he should send it out.
I would send it out
Okay,
today.
so they return next month. They have whichever seeker form we've decided is necessary. They already have the short one, but so they've got that done. They've got answers to whatever questions we've got here, about the seating, the parking and possibly stormwater, they got that all done. We declare the application complete. And then what?
Then we put everybody on notice, including the county planning board. We declare ourselves lead agency. They've got 30 days in which to respond to us and say, no, we want to be lead agency, which they will not do.
Right.
And they have 30 days in which to get us their letter that says we're not interested, or we think there's some countywide impact, or we think that we ought to do X. Okay,
Right.
then we have another meeting here, and probably at that point schedule a public hearing for the following meeting.
All right, well, the next meeting is May. So you're talking about a public hearing in June?
Yes, or if at the next meeting you decide that you're pretty satisfied with the application as it is,
Right.
we can send all that stuff out and schedule a public hearing for May.
For June,
That's up to the board.
for June, the next meeting is May. Public hearing would be June.
Oh, sure.
That would be the soonest.
Or we could simply, take the additional information we have, ask more questions, and at the next meeting, schedule it for July.
Right, well, I guess that's
We
my
have 62
question,
days in which to act.
right, and I guess my question is. Do you think it's gonna be necessary to push this to July, or can it get done sooner?
I think that depends on the quality of the information they get back to us at the next meeting.
Good answer.
Yeah, I will,
Nobody's hostile to this project.
Right.
We're doing our due diligence.
and Mike has said that, he just, he came up with, I don't know if you saw his question, a number of questions, already. I think I put in a packet that you could look at.
Yeah.
But it's right here.
Oh, I guess I didn't realize we had a packet.
Yeah, and in there is Mike's questions for that, and he said, I didn't have enough time, and just today, Blue said, Mike, you do the stormwater, I'm not gonna look at it.
Is there just one copy of this?
That's okay, everybody got their own.
Oh, okay.
That's yours.
Okay,
There's a lot of paper.
what?
Yeah, sure, I thought I had it.
It's this one here. Yeah, here, this one here, not, I mean,
Yeah.
this is the right, I think one of these are like third.
Peter, I think they're over on that table.
This table.
I think so.
So this is the March minutes?
Yeah, I think in the 8th, right? Grab it, right?
Yeah, that's a blue. Pick up on it.
I read the other page.
You kind of picked up on exactly what you were talking about. The flow, how much water. What is it the number, is it a restaurant, and that was always, I'm looking at this saying, when it comes down to reviewing it for building permits, what is it? Is it a banquet hall? Is it a restaurant? There's a big difference, and there's a difference in the number of bathrooms,
Well, as soon as they admitted that
it's a restaurant.
I have it open as a restaurant as opposed to a banquet hall.
He doesn't have enough bathrooms, he doesn't have enough,
Peter, didn't the Saratoga County Sewer District come up with a number for them based on what they're doing? Number of units?
Well, they did, but they really didn't know approximately what the plans, they never saw a set of plans. They knew the 8,000 gallons a day usage. They knew, I guess they estimated the number of bathrooms. They know what he has now, and they estimated additional bathrooms, and they came up with.
All right, got 400 customers, and you got all the staff.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't have enough,
Washing dishes.
So I looked at the banquet hall and said, well, there are only 3 bathrooms for 125 people. That's not 75.
And
Well, you got bathrooms upstairs for the other banquet, but I just said, if it's a banquet hall, that works. If it's a restaurant, that doesn't work. If it's a bar, it doesn't work. And to me, I think it will function more as a bar. You know, in the summertime, people will be out there. It's not gonna be.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, because of, both the banquet hall,
And he has
basically
all
a
the-
weekend,
Right.
thing, not.
Right, and he'll have all, the whole side of the building, and I didn't realize this, I thought they were tearing down the whole building and building a new one, they're not, they're leaving up the one side of the building, so it could be nothing but sliding glass doors.
Right. Okay,
Minutes,
and it's,
Are we moving on
Yeah,
from?
I make a motion, we accept the, March minutes as presented with the exception that my last name does not have a T in it. Okay.
Noted for the record,
I
that,
noted for the
my
record.
apologies.
No big deal.
We need a second? Sure.
For that,
Yes.
Yes.
yes,
Yes. We had to wait all this time. just to get-
Just to get that.
Jeez. And just-
Thank you.
it was then-
I think they were really pushing tonight because they wanted a completion of us to say, that's a complete application. My guess is that he wants to get going on this summer.
Yeah.
good, let it motivate that to get
I mean,
us
that-
that information. we
Yeah.
need. I mean,
So I had that off the record. Oh, you
Yeah.
still taking,
No.
can't be off the record.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I can't, but somebody else can.
Yep.
Is this a real thing? Wait, this is.
Yeah, we just adjourned.
Adjourn?
Just,
Okay.
okay.